everyone. We're back. Hope you had a refreshing break. I'm Mehrnaz Campbell, and I'm joined here with Liselle and Catarina. Hi, Catarina.
Hello.
Hi, Liselle.
Hello, everybody.
Perfect. So in this panel discussion, we're going to talk about aligning the human side of pharma transformation and really discuss how to do it for real, right? We had another panelist, Hitchem, but unfortunately he's not joined us. But what we're going to do, because his views were quite controversial, we're going to recall from our memory and share with you what he thought, right? Okay. So because this session is all about the human element of transformation, we thought it would be unfair for us three to sit here and talk about it. So again, I'd like to get you involved in this discussion. And this time we're going to use Slido again, if you could bring the QR code. And what I want you to do is think of one word that describes digital transformation for you, just one word. And we're going to use word cloud. Because when we were talking to Hitchem, it was quite funny. He said he's allergic to the word digital transformation. He said he's allergic to the word transformation. And I think sometimes the emotion that is created when you think of that word is varied. Some people are really excited, want to move towards it. Some people are basically shit scared and don't want to do it and avoid it. So let's see what everybody's thinking here. As the words are coming, I'd like you, Catarina, and Liselle, comment on it.
You were laughing on the buzzword, no?
No, I was laughing on the fluff word, actually.
Fluff word.
But I think somebody knows me because they've put down the word adoption, so thank you for that. Yes, I agree. Change is coming out quite strong.
Change is quite strong, isn't it? I like the ROI, but it's really small.
Difficult.
Yeah. So while we're waiting for everybody to load their one word, did anybody see the Aurora Borealis this weekend? Because I was in Scotland and I missed it. I didn't know. Somebody put their hand up. So one person in this big room saw it, right? There was another thing I missed this weekend, and I was alerted to it last night. What is common between the panelists, including Hitchem, who's not here with us? All three of the panelists are from Switzerland. And I understand something amazing happened this weekend that I missed it. So,
Yes,
Liselle, what was that?
Yes, Nemo won Eurovision. So if you hadn't watched that, I really recommend you do. It was an amazing performance. Well done, Switzerland.
Yeah, well done. Congratulations. I think that's probably more significant than Aurora Borealis, right? So I'm going to start with you, Liselle, unless you want to pick on evolution. That's good. Change. Okay, we can come back to those because I think participants still contributing. I'm going to start with you, Liselle. And I think if you've checked Liselle's LinkedIn profile, which I did, and that creeped her out a little bit before our alignment call, one of the things she strongly believes in is the principle of 3 Ps around people, processes, and platforms. And I was just curious for you to expand on that, why you believe in that, and is there a particular focus on one element more than the other within that framework?
Sure, thank you. So for me, the most important component of the 3 Ps is obviously people. And I think the technology, the platforms that we use, clearly a good enabler, and the process is a good how to get there, but how we think about the people that are using our tools and systems and activities that around that is, for me, the most important thing. And I find that that is actually the hardest part. So some of those words, when I think of transformation, I think that's the difficult part. People say that technology is easy, and I'm not a technologist per se. I don't know how to code. And I think I could learn it if I chose to do so. But I think understanding the motivations of people, their behaviors, and why they should do something, and why they should then continue doing something, and then ultimately leading to adoption and then outcomes, that's the hard part for the transformation, especially for us also at Novo Nordisk, that we're in.
That's really interesting. I've got some exciting news for you. I was sitting next to this guy on a plane who is in IT, and he said, now you don't need to know how to code to create So you can use ChatGPT.
I know.
Yeah, perfect, right?
I know. I use ChatGPT a lot, actually. I love it.
Yeah, me too. So what I love about what you said is I think humans are key, and I think the key thing is about enabling humans to use the technology to give us that advantage, like you using the ChatGPT 4, right? What's your views on that, Catarina?
Well, I was looking at the board, and I really like the word evolution. I'm a biologist. So by the way, we did not introduce ourselves, but I will. Although I'm very happy for Switzerland, I am not Swiss, I'm Portuguese. I work for Novartis in Switzerland, in the headquarters. I've been working for Novartis for 16 years, and right now I'm in the business of transforming, I would say, or evolving, or supporting the evolution of the company as I work in pre-launch execution. So I'm in the business of launching new drugs, which is probably lead to failure, because I just saw a very recent report by IQVIA. I don't know if there is any IQVIA person in the room, showing that only 6%, so they did an analysis of the past, more than 1,000 drugs launched. Only 6% in the specialty market actually were excellent in terms of sales, so reached the externally communicated targets. But so coming back to evolution and transformation, so evolution, I love it as a biologist, because evolution of the beings and of the species always has as a background, and I think Dario mentioned this in the beginning, this Darwinian perception that it underlies change. So change is actually what allows the evolution. Many times the question is, why do we need to change? Right? So from a biological perspective, I am prone, or I am ready to perform as is. Any change will require energy investment, huge energy investment. So why do I need to change? So I would really like to maybe speak a bit and discuss a bit around the why. So why do we need to change? Why does our industry need to change? We still live in a pretty good ROI ecosystem. So why do we need to change? Do we change for the purpose of digital? Is digital a purpose? So what is the purpose of change? Why do we need to change? And just to build a bit on this, I saw a very impressive, in my perspective, report from FPA from 2 years ago, claiming that in Europe, rates of availability of our new molecules are 50% in the European ecosystem. So only 50% of the European citizens actually have access to innovation. And the times of availability are above 500 days. So even for those who have access, the average times of availability are above 500 days. So if this is not a good enough purpose to change, to me it is. But just in general, discussing the purpose around why do we need to change? We need to change for the patient. We need to change because we want to increase our profitability, our sales, as it was mentioned earlier by Saskia, or our bottom line. What is it that really makes us change? And also, how do we lead, from a cultural perspective, the organization behind this need to change? And this is where I really like a lot of the words there, which is it's always day one, it's very difficult, it's a VUCA world, it's time-consuming, it's frustrating.
Yeah. You touched on a really important point, because often organizations don't explain the why. They just say, let's move on in this direction and like move fast. But if the why is not there, there's a resistance to change. So have you got any real examples of where you actually articulated and communicated the why to start that change process?
I think we do explain the why. I think what happens is that we don't explain the why all the way through the lines. So it comes back to what do I need to do about this, and why does it make my life better? So where I sit at Novo Nordisk is in the development part of the organization. And I spend a lot of my time working within our digital transformation group, focusing on clinical operations. So for that, we also have to explain to our CRAs why they need to use our technologies in a different way, or not use our technologies anymore, because we're now changing it. And that in itself means that we actually have to understand their job. We have to understand what it feels like to be a clinical research associate in front of customers, in front of sites, talking to doctors and nurses, and then we have to be able to design the solutions to meet not just their needs, but also the needs of those customers that they are interacting with in the capacity of clinical operations. So I think we do a good job of explaining the why at an executive level, but I think we all struggle to appreciate the nuances of what it actually then means when we go down into the actual jobs that are being done by those people.
You talked about that, about human motivation, what's in it for the individuals. What's your thoughts? How do you make that real so individuals feel there's something specifically in it for me and they're clear about what is it that they need to do?
So you just heard Vanita talk in the previous session about the design principles that we work with at Novo Nordisk around viability, feasibility, and desirability. And we also do that across development. And one of the things that we've been driving internally is more around a campaign. This is my Englishness coming out. You've got to be in it to win it. So that means that our people need to be involved in the early stages of product development. And we're doing this through matching. So very simple concept. I know I have something to sell you, my experience, my knowledge, my activities. I know what I'm doing as a person that's in the company doing my job, and I'm a global product team. I'm looking for help. I'm looking for guidance. I'm looking for research. I'm looking to understand what you do in your day-to-day life. So what we're trying to do is democratize access to end users and global digital product teams to speed up the time it takes to design the right solution to meet the right need. Because previously, as you all know, it's a big organization. Oh, I know somebody. They're in France. Could you speak to their manager? So we're trying to break that down a little bit to speed up that process and creating a little bit of structure around user engagement, following these principles of desirability, feasibility, and viability.
Thank you for sharing that. I think we talked about the why. You need to have a clear why, and that is understood by everyone. We talked about the what. It needs to be very clear what's in it for individuals to move in that direction. But let's talk about the how. And it was really interesting because the how really touches on culture. And I wish Hitchin was here because he actually thought you can't change culture. We had a good argument. It's a shame he's not here so we can have that debate here on stage.
Probably why he shouldn't
But
come.
he was arguing strongly that you can't change culture. And yeah, I'm really interested to know, Catarina, what's your perspective on it?
So personally, I went, in these 16 years, and in the past 5, just in Novartis, I went through 3 major transformations. By different causes, geography focus, asset focus, just needing to reduce our FTEs, so many different reasons. So I've impacted the life of many people. I was also impacted by one of them, and it's okay, even when we are impacted. But so just in general, the how. So my personal take on these transformations are, first, the why needs to be very clearly stated. And I'm going to say 2 or 3 things, or 3 or 4 things that I felt really worked well for me, and they need to happen they all need to happen. So it's not or, it's and. So first, state a clear, very, very, very clear why. And the why, there are many layers on this why, and the why also needs to start with why we are in a bad place now. So it's not only what we want to reach, but why do we want to leave and exit the place where we are now? So we used to have this, and I can disclose it now because it's no longer the case. We used to have this, I was discussing this with Liselle, we used to have this pitch internally, which was we really need to reach twice as many patients, twice as fast. So we are not in a good place. We need to move into this place. So we had a clear vision around why we are doing this change. This was being communicated throughout the organization. Again, communication has very many layers. We had this rule of +5. So anytime you think about, I will schedule a meeting to communicate the why and the process to this group of people, plan it for 5 meetings. 1 meeting is never enough. If you plan for 2, plan for 10. So it's always a multiplying effect, because repetition is actually a very key It's a key success factor in any transformation. So repetition. Then also remove the obstacles. So one thing we've identified is there are always many people in the organization that don't want to change. And usually these people are actually managers. And most people that are actually either losing power or losing, internal visibility will play an important role in resisting change. So it's really important to identify and support these people through change. And so change is about changing people. And again, we have this natural resistance. So it's really around being patient, communicating a lot, being open to receive feedback, which is very difficult when we do not want to paralyze the organization, so we want to change fast, but changing fast is very difficult. So it's really about receiving feedback, incorporating feedback, and being patient with these changes.
Yeah.
So a few points. There are many layers on this. We are oversimplifying because change is actually very difficult.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think culture, when you're going through transformation, is different to culture business as usual, because often you don't have a clear roadmap of where you're going and how you're going to get there. So I personally feel you need to give people more autonomy and more freedom to experiment, maybe test it, fail, and learn from that, and take that learning to try again. Do you think that's happening? Do you think we've got that culture of try, fail, and learn from it to support that transformation?
I can talk. I used to be at Novartis as well, but I can talk for Novo Nordisk, and I do sense a really strong sense of experimentation. And it is also down to the culture of the organization as well. There is a sense of, our company slogan is driving change to combat serious diseases. And internally, you see that manifest itself in the way that teams are coming up with problems that need to be addressed, that are actually are making the right steps forward against our business objectives. There is an appetite for experimentation. There's also an appetite to share those learnings. I think the struggle that we have is that we're not as large as Novartis, but there are many layers, and you can't always reach everybody to express what you've learned or express the resistance. That's a real practical challenge that I see in my organization day in, day out. And we do all of the standard things that you would do normally internally, and probably bombarding people with way too much communications. But it is on that principle of repetition, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you need to have both, right? It is polarities. You need to have a part of the business that is business as usual. Obviously, with minor changes. I mean, digital, and you are the expert, right? If we look at omnichannel engagement or any of these technologies. So this needs to be more and more embedded on business as usual. So business as usual still needs upskilling, but it's not as much as a part of the organization that is actually open to the outside world and scouting for what else do we need to do different. But I think you need to have two speeds. Otherwise, it's paralysis. If we keep changing, it's paralysis. So part of the business, we try to do this, for example, the way we segment. So we have our in-market brands. So those are business as usual as much as possible. We know about the markets. We know about the customers. We can still tailor a bit and, of course, always improve our execution. And then we have a part which is pre-launch, which is really about learning. And so you need more of this agility. You need different sets of capabilities in this part of the organization. Probably more of a cross-functional mindset. So clearly different capabilities, different openness, and learn. It's by iteration, yeah.
I just wanted to pick up on something you said earlier on about resistance to change and the role of the manager. And that's clearly evident as well. We see that as well. And what we try to do where we are is create more structured capability upskilling and leadership development for these managers, so that not only do they become advocates for the business transformation that we're driving, that they feel part of it, that they can kind of like co-create their own learning journey as well. So that's something that we've started within our organization to try and combat the resistance part as well.
Absolutely.
That's great. So it's a coaching culture. Yeah, perfect. I think one thing I thought Hisham said that is really worth sharing with you. He said that transformation doesn't have a full stop. Sometimes by the time we go through change and complete the project and the changes we wanted to bring as a result of transformation, by the time it's done, it's out of date and it needs to happen again. So I think when we were talking about it, he suggested maybe evolution is a better word rather than transformation, so we don't think it's ending and it continues. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've got a few minutes, so why don't we use this opportunity? You've got two experts sitting here. Why don't we give you an opportunity to ask questions? Any questions in the audience?
It's difficult to see.
Hi, thank you for the debate, very insightful. My question to you.
Sorry, can we have the volume higher, please?
Hi, thank you for the debate. My question to you is, how do you carve space for change and for transformation while you have to run the agenda of the business? You have your budget, you have your inbox, you have the performance, the crisis of the day. How do you carve space for change?
Wow, that's a tough one to answer. I think for me personally, it is actually our job. That's what we have to do. It's part of being a leader in an organization, and I think you have to appreciate the difficulty, the resistance, and you have to plan. I am a bit of a planner. You have to plan your activities in order to do that. It's not easy. I sit in a transformation office, so some of the day-to-day activities are being managed through the lines of business, which does appease some of that business as usual. But a transformation office will have an end at some point, because hopefully we've achieved our ambition, which we will do. So for me personally, it's about planning myself, planning the work that I do with the people that I have to work with, and be mindful of business priorities that are sitting in the other areas of the business that are going to take priority over what I need to be driving.
Yeah.
I have a different view. I mean, I was working with a group of healthcare professionals a few years ago. They wanted to do service redesign. And in their mind, they were thinking, we have to run the clinics exactly as they are, and then bolt these additional things on top of it. And when I used a flip chart, and we were just looking at it, the idea they had was much more effective and much more cost-effective, but they needed to stop doing what they were doing and transition to the new model. And sometimes I think we keep thinking we have to keep doing what we're doing and bolt transformation on top. But AI and technology is going to allow us to push the admin bits to technology to do and free our mind to think about new ways of doing. So I think we need to have a step change, not keep doing everything we've done before and bolt innovation on top of it. What do you think, Catarina?
Yeah, I agree with both. I don't know how. It didn't seem dissonant to me. I think you're right, but I also like the idea of segmenting. So you choose the projects or the teams that will drive innovation, but you need a part of the organization that it's what it is. You can change everything.
Yeah.
And this should really be aligned with your purpose. It's the purpose, because change only happens if the people change. And so, and people are fueled by strong purposes.
Any more does that answer your question?
There is a question back there.
Perfect. Oh, we've got a question in the back, please.
Hello. Why is it that when we talk about regulatory and compliance, we have to adhere with them as companies, but when we talk about digital transformation, it's not one size fits all, or it's not mandatory? How can we make it as digital transformation as we accept rules and regulations and compliance and regulatory?
I didn't get the first part of the question.
I think what I heard was how to make digital transformation a priority. I think that's what the microphone wasn't so. If I heard incorrectly, please say so.
I think he's asking for the mic. Could we turn the volume of the mic up, please?
Yeah, I said that when we talk about compliance and regulatory, we make them mandatory in our organizations. Why isn't digital transformation the same?
It's not mandatory.
So I have a view on, actually at Novo Nordisk we have a view on this. We think of digital transformation as business transformation, and digital is enabling our business to perform better. So therefore, by default, it's mandatory. We need to change the way that we think and work. So that's how we tackle that.
I think to us, the most difficult is where do we start, to be honest. And I was just a bit playing with Marco when he was doing his presentation. I mean, the digital world is, everything is changing so fast in the digital ecosystem that then it's difficult for us, big companies with, lots of responsibilities and a lot of people, where do we start?
Yeah.
I mean, we are all using Copilot. Copilot is a nice tool to communicate and to make our lives easier, but is this what we want to embed in the organization? I think the problem is more where to start. It's not, we all want it, so it's already helping R&D to become leaner and faster. Clinical trials is already helping, but what else can we really do to speed up? I think this is where we are still a bit struggling.
Thank you, Catarina, for answering that question. Thank you, Liselle. And thank you all for participating and sharing your perspective. I think we run out of time, and thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Thank you.